So I did want to pray with you if that was okay,
Okay.
just to take a minute
Yeah.
prayer.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. I'm ready.
Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for this appointment that I believe that you ordained, God. I ask that you just put your covering over this broadcast, this time that we have together, that we can speak eloquently, keep you as the centerfold, and also just touch the words that come out of our mouths. And Lord, allow me to be a good listener, that you would touch Danny and that you would bless Danny for being courageous and bold for his faith and his obedience to you. And God, that the receivers of this message, even if it's just one person that needs to hear it, to share it with a friend or to allow their soul to take hold of what is being said so that they can experience their own healing, Lord. And that we are reminded that this is all for you and for your glory. Lord, I totally believe that this podcast was inspired by you, and I'm just asking that you would continue to bless it and bless the listeners and those that interact with it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, everybody, it is Nathan Cabrera, and you are watching the Trip Ups and Triumphs podcast. If you don't remember, we are the podcast that keeps it real about the highs and lows of life, and you would think that I would know this without looking at a script. But here I am. And I, as your host, Nathan Cabrera, we dive into raw conversations about failures, comebacks, and the lessons that turn setbacks into success. So whether you're grinding through a challenge or celebrating a win, this show is here to remind you it is all a part of the journey. Expect real stories, unfiltered insights, and a few laughs along the way. Tune in and get inspired to turn your trip ups into triumphs. Hey, everybody, and thank you so much for watching or listening wherever you are. Maybe you are in your living room, maybe you're in your kitchen washing dishes, or you are on your wonderful ride and commute to work. Lovely day are we having, is it not? But today I do have a wonderful guest. I always promise you guys and tell you that I have great people coming in, and nonetheless, this is going to be the exact same thing. I am so excited. I have Mr. Danny Jordan here from Texas. What's up, Danny? How are you?
Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I am so appreciative that you said yes. Look, guys, I was in Danny's DMs just keeping my fingers crossed, hoping that he would reply to me. As you guys know, I post a lot on social media and I'm always lurking, creeping, and seeing what other content creators are doing. And of course, I have this podcast where I'm just like trying to figure out how to connect with other awesome creatives that are intentional about what they post and they have their own specific audiences. And I actually was watching some of what Danny was posting in his regular feed, and I just really gravitated towards it. I thought it was really bold. It was something different and unique that I had not seen before. And so I connected with him, and here we are. So, Danny, thank you so much for being here. Yes, we're here. Can you, well, first of all, how old are you? Where are you from? How did you get there? Why are you still there?
Yeah, so I am 25. I'll be 26 in a couple of months. And currently I live in Fort Worth, Texas. It's a smaller but still pretty large city.
Is that
right
military
outside of
area?
Dallas.
I'm sorry, I'm ignorant.
There is a base around. It's not like a really big presence, though. Dallas kind of overshadows a lot of Fort Worth anyway. So Stockyards is a very big country town. Not my thing or scene at all, but I'm here. Regardless, I'm actually building a house. I'm in a little suburb outside of Fort Worth. So I'm here because of that. But yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
You could have fooled me. You didn't
Yeah,
sound too
thanks.
excited. You're like, I'm here, but you're learning to love it, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Were you born and raised there and you just came back, or?
Yeah, so actually I was born in West Texas, San Angelo, Texas. It was my hometown. My dad's a pastor. We moved for his work probably every 5 years until they got till we arrived here. I was in midway through high school in Fort Worth. Um so from high school I went back to San Angelo to try and start school, but I started college in 2020, January of 2020. And
What a
so
wonderful time to start college.
my school career just got completely shattered in March of that year, just like everyone else's. So ended up moving back, moved to Kentucky for a while because I went to I went to Bible school, I went to Southern Seminary's Bible College, and that's where like a lot of my problems began.
Ooh,
But from there, moved back to Dallas, and then from Dallas, moved back to Fort Worth. Currently living with my parents until my house is built. That's like
yes.
this. That's the summation in a nutshell.
No, that's great. That is literally the new trend in these. That's what these
For real. Yeah.
folks are all moving back home and they feel like so disgruntled about it. And I get it because like economy or the cost of living is huge and life's just different. But I always say, look, if I had had the
Different.
opportunity to live with my parents in my 20s, I totally would have ran with it and been like, yeah, I'm having whatever's in your fridge tonight because it's ghetto out here.
Yeah.
I don't like paying these
Free
bills.
room and board.
Gotta love
Yes.
it. Now, was your
Exactly.
dad a pastor like full time, and that's why he was moving pretty frequently, or there was other line of work that he was into that led you guys to move? Or
Yeah. So for the first part of his ministry, like starting off, he was in contracting, but then he went to seminary around here in Fort Worth. And so, yeah, I mean, he was full time kind of after starting seminary and getting his master's in divinity there. And from there, that's when it was full time. So moved around a lot
okay,
for that
yeah.
reason.
So I mean, he's not that far from Jesus if he's a contractor and then he's doing gospel ministry.
Exactly. He's a carpenter. Yes. He's actually the one who's literally building my house right now.
Tell him
And
he needs
it
to
just
build
kind of worked
mine.
out that he knows how to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, for real. I mean, everyone's like, yeah, oh, can he come build my house?
yeah,
Like, no, we are never going to do this again. Like
yeah.
if I had to build a house again, I would never do it again. It's so stressful.
I'm there with you. People don't realize like we have all these big dreams. And you know what's really ruined it for us, I think, is HGTV. Can we be real? Like we watched all those extreme
Yes.
makeovers for years and normally they're 30 or minute episodes or 1 hour and we just think like, yeah, our house is going to be done in 30
Done.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, so really
exactly. And then you don't get to see all the frustrating like situations of contractors not showing up or, tile breaking or, what have you, because they can edit all that out.
yeah,
But
I actually got my house during like the COVID era as well and my dilemma was
okay.
having inventory or any stock of anything. So it really
Yeah.
delayed things all the time because we're like, yeah, we don't have flooring. We don't have doors. We don't have windows. And I'm just like, what do
Sorry.
you
We don't have
what do you
shoes
have?
anymore.
Yeah, it's like, what the heck? So, well, that's cool. Hopefully, you'll be able to share pictures of the progress, or make a viral TikTok or
Absolutely.
something with that.
Absolutely. I'm so excited.
That's great. So, a lot of times, I do like to play a little game with guests to just break the ice. So I know no
Okay.
added pressure, right? I did not prepare, guys. I don't prepare my guests for anything. They're literally going in this blind. So what you see is exactly what you get. So I feel for them because I know they're like,
We
what
hope.
is this man going to ask me? But I'm going to keep this simple. These are just rapid fire, no thinking type of questions. It's more of like a this or that. So we get to
Okay.
know a little bit more about you. So first question, coffee or tea? Are you more of a coffee or tea person?
Coffee.
All right. And are you
Coffee
more
for
into
sure.
good? And now where are we getting our coffee from, if anywhere?
So, convenience, I'll go to Starbucks because I don't really have a good craft coffee shop around me. But regardless, wherever I go, it's always going to be cold brew. Like it
Cold
could
brew.
be 2 degrees outside. I'm still going to drink an iced cold brew.
Apparently, that is an American thing. I have a lot of friends that are like international or abroad.
Yeah,
Especially my one friend who lived many years in Japan, and he's a big fan of matcha. He says like Americans
absolutely.
have this like huge fascination with cold beverages and not only cold iced. So he said like iced coffee, iced matcha. He's like we're all about it, and I had no idea that that was like a big thing for just us. But apparently,
Yeah.
ice in general when you go to restaurants, like especially Europeans that are listening, please correct me if I'm wrong. But if you go there, like and you ask for like a Coke and they're giving it to you in a glass, they're not giving you ice unless you ask. And then if you ask for
Yes.
ice, they're normally putting like 2 ice cubes in there, and they're just like, here you go.
Yeah, the concept is not there. I think it's because they don't have brutal summers like we have. I don't know. But yeah, whenever I've been to Ireland and in London, and it was like that everywhere. Plus, refills are charged. Like you're charged
I
for
would die.
refills.
I would
Yeah, I'm
die.
just like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have water.
Yeah. A lot of places are starting to
Yeah.
try to charge you for water too. Like that was supposed to be like
I
a free
know.
thing, the free trick, but all of us jumped on that bandwagon that they're like charging you 30 cents to a dollar, even like at
Yeah,
McDonald's. I'm like, wait a minute. What if I bring my own cup?
it's
And then you can't bring your own
insanely.
cup because of COVID.
Yeah, no, gotta pay the man.
Early mornings or late nights?
Both.
Both. Tell me more.
I often don't go to sleep till really late, and then just wake up early for work, and then also just kind of wake up early
Yeah.
naturally.
Yeah. I always tell people I'm not a morning owl or night owl or morning person at all
So
because
you're both with the opposite.
yes, exactly. I just like sleep.
Okay.
Like if I can do 8 to 10 hours, that's ideal. But I haven't been getting much of that lately, so I really need to catch up. I'm in a cranky mood, believe it or not.
Yes.
Deep
You're
talks.
doing a great job hiding it.
Thank you so much. Deep talks or group hangouts.
Deep talks for sure.
Okay. Good. Then you are in the right place. Let's get into it.
Yes. Ready.
When you are studying, is it music or silence?
Silence.
I love distractions. Mountains or
Yeah.
beach?
Beach.
Do you have any beaches near? I don't know too much about Texas. I'm sorry. I've only
No.
been in San Antonio.
No beaches. No, you're good. I'm so far away from any. Even the beaches that we have in Texas are disgusting. So yeah.
No, shots fired. All right, so you're not going to
Yeah,
Texas for the
nice.
beach. You're just going there to like bake.
Yeah, exactly. And today in February it was 80 degrees. So
Wow, that is wild.
yeah.
Like I'm still part of the reason why I was late for our appointment was because I was trying not to fall on my bottom outside because we still have ice like all over the place. So I'm just like skating to
Gosh.
my doorstep. So yeah, that
Yeah.
was.
No, I can't do that.
And I can't do the heat. I went to San Antonio, and the worst month I think ever was August. My brother had just
Yeah.
graduated from like the Air Force Academy,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
or for boot camp, and it was so hot. It was like 110 degrees, or felt like 110 degrees, and yeah, it
I'm
was
sure
not
it
fun.
was 110. Yeah.
Literally, right? So everybody, this is the good parts, right? We're gonna thank you, Danny, for playing the game. Again, I got the privilege to meet Danny on Instagram. This is how we meet a lot of people nowadays, is online, and he was
Yep.
just creating
That's true.
social, content, and we have a social community, so that's really cool. But Danny, can you tell me like what type of content do you post? Like what is all that about? Like give us listeners the rundown. Like what do you do?
Yeah, so I started posting more regularly about my own choice to pursue celibacy. Not just my own choice, but more of what I feel like the Lord's direction is for me in my life. So, and what I found is a lot of people relate to that, specifically like same sex attracted or gay Christians who are navigating this oversexed world where sex is just expected regardless of whether you're secular or if you're Christian, like it's just there. I've been, yeah, so I just post kind of my own thoughts and feelings about the difficulties and the joys and the quirks of being celibate. My thing is to make what I like to say is I want to make celibacy sexy. And when I say that, I don't want it to feel like, if you've been called to celibacy or you choose to be celibate for a point in time, like, I don't want it to feel like you are not living a full life or that something is being taken away from you just because you do not have, sexual intimacy with a partner. But there's actually so much more joy in that and so much more intimacy you can experience with Jesus in the day to day by pursuing celibacy. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's my goal in what I post. And yeah, so far it's been pretty well received. Definitely met a lot of people like you, Nathan, and a lot of people going through, even if they don't feel like they're called to lifelong celibacy or they feel like they're going to have a partner eventually. It's been nice to have that encouragement, kind of like that two-way encouragement, like to be posting and then to receive encouragement of what I post. So
Yeah.
anyways.
No, thank you for sharing. And yeah, there's so much that you just covered just now, and so much to unpack. I think, especially as listeners are hearing this, there might be even some uncomfortableness, like where is this going? What is this all about? And I'm sure there's a lot of questions from people and curiosity for sure. I mean, that is definitely one thing that triggered in my mind is like how does a person do this? What is this all about? So like, and then just celibacy within itself can seem very unorthodox to our culture nowadays when people were pretty
Mhm.
much practicing the celibacy or the abstinent way for many years and decades in past. Now, mind you, you're going to have a lot of opposers that say, well, purity culture and abstinence has caused so many issues. And I agree, but part of that was the
Yes,
education,
absolutely.
but definitely the over sexualized communities that we are experiencing now. It's just in our face all the time. Like I'm thinking, like even in my workplace or anywhere, like you just can't get away from it. A lot of times it's just always in your
Yeah.
face. I mean, you think about algorithms and being online, and then just the addictions that people have nowadays to pornography or hookup culture. I've shared some of my personal story in previous episodes, just kind of like just my relationship with sex and how it can be troublesome, and the connections that you have with people as it relates to intimacy. So I'm just thinking about a whole gamut of things. And on top of that, I just think about just I mean, you're 25. I'll be 34 in like 2 months, and I'm just thinking about like
Okay.
even just like almost a decade of difference and how there's kind of a shift in sort of ways, like I think a movement within your generation and those that are coming up. They're having sex less, the frequency or the attraction of just being sexual in general. I think that we can relate that for so many reasons, but teen pregnancies are down, so that's a plus. Like there's
Yeah.
a huge decrease in those numbers, and then on top of that, people are having less children in general, and I think we can relate that to economy and just people not wanting to raise kids, and obviously contraceptives and other methods as to why people are not, the birth rate has gone down. But yeah, kind of like just what inspired you to really take that stance, because that is a big move for one, and you shared a couple of things, but what really was the, like, what is the why are you doing this?
Uh, Yeah. So the why for me is there needs to be a shift in church culture when it comes to celibacy. And I mean specifically the Protestant denominations, because obviously Catholics and I don't know, those old world traditions have celibacy built in, priests, monks, nuns. But in the Protestant traditions, we idolize marriage like extremely, extremely. So, like, for kids like me who knew that I was attracted to men from a very young age, my only scope of navigation out of that was to marry a woman. But had there been this narrative introduced to me early on that there are two sexualities that are holy and sanctifiable before the Lord, opposite sex marriage or heterosexual marriage or celibacy. Like those are the only two options that you have. And had we celebrated celibacy like we celebrate marriage and made it livable and made it tenable for future celibates, I really think we could mitigate a lot of the fallout that we've had of people leaving the church because of their sexuality, because they can't align their faith with their sexuality. There's like a cognitive dissonance there. There's a disconnect, and they feel, however they feel, which of course is valid. But yeah, the why is because I want to start shifting in my own church that I attend regularly, kind of just the broader narrative as well that celibacy is not a death sentence. It is a full life, just
Mhm.
as much as marriage is. And you will be lonely at times in celibacy, but married people are oftentimes lonely even together. So that's just where the Lord and intimacy with the Lord has to come in. And I think if you're a celibate Christian, which there are going to be less celibate Christians than there are married couples, I just think that's kind of how things work because of how attractions seem to be.
Yeah.
Typically, same-sex attracted people are they're typically the minority.
That's really good. Thank you for sharing that. For one, it's
Yeah,
helping us to better understand like your viewpoint and kind of like that you're not alone in this viewpoint. That it sounds like there are others. And so like right away, I'm thinking about yeah, you're right. And in purity culture or church culture, it's kind of like marriage is the one and done. Like that is the thing that we idolize. It's kind of like that rudimentary, and maybe it's
yeah.
Western culture, you know, American culture. That's just like, hey,
Sure.
it's that same way where we were raised. Like, hey, white picket fence, the American dream. You're gonna have those two
Mhm.
dogs. You're gonna have the mother, the father, the two kids, boy and the girl. That's after, of course, that you go to school, you go to college, you get that job for 50 years, and then you die there. You know, like marriage was always like that is the top level, and I see it all the time, especially with singles. Like that are you know heterosexual or maybe you know they could be homosexual that really like that is the one thing that they want is they just don't want to be alone and it's like
Yep,
no one I don't want to say no one knows why like they want a partner everyone naturally wants to feel loved, right? And
absolutely.
so and then we have these negative connotations of like hey I'm going to be that lonely lady cat lady, you know, old cat lady.
Yeah, that weird cat lady.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we joke about it, but you know, eventually like jokes, you know, stick or they, you know, those stereotypes kind of like stick when the more that they're repeated and
absolutely.
just it's influence, right? I always talk about the power of words, but that's kind of like where I'm gathering. But so there's a couple things that I'm thinking about. For one, what has the feedback been from people? Like you said there was some positivity from certain people like but when I'm assuming, or I assume that those that are listening or will be listening to this are going to have, you know, some thoughts, you know, that or their own personal feelings. Like, how has the reception been? Because you're talking about people within, you know, the church community, but I imagine that people that are not a part of a church community are seeing your content as well. And then you're going to have folks that do identify with same sex attraction or that are heterosexual that are maybe not receiving the message as you intended. Does that make sense? What are your thoughts or what has feedback been fully?
Yeah, so a lot of my a lot of the feedback I get are from people in the church or from people who are affirming in their theology of I don't know if you know about the side A, side B conversation as far as sexuality goes,
Mm-mm.
but essentially side A is an affirming view of homosexuality that God is okay
I s-
with same-sex unions and same-sex marriage and that there's nothing wrong with it. The only issue is lust in their interpretation. And then side B conversation is that God is that the sin needs to be mortified or that the problem is not the feelings in them in it of himself, but it's the expression and how we express it physically with our bodies and that God is not okay with same-sex relationships because that is not how he designed humanity work to work. So I've gotten like mixed feedback. I have a lot of people in my DMs who are in uproar about what I'm saying. They're typically affirming theology or affirming that God is okay with same-sex relationships. And then I have a lot of charismatics who are upset with me because like charismatic Pentecostal. I consider myself charismatic. I affirm the gifts. I affirm that God can do and does do miracles and wonders and everything. But a lot of my message has been interpreted by this group of other brothers and sisters that I'm saying that God can't heal you of your same sex attraction.
Hmm.
And I'm absolutely not saying that. I am challenging that. And I am saying, why do you think you need to be quote unquote healed of it? It's not a disease.
Mm,
It is sinful, right? It is something that needs to be tamed and curbed, and it can't just be, loose and rampant. My response to them is, why does God need to heal you of your same sex attraction? Because in my eyes, the same sex attraction is actually a benefit, asterisk, asterisk, a benefit in that it constantly reminds you and prompts you to rely heavier on on the Lord daily
Yeah.
because of how close the attractions sit with you. So that's my kind of response to a lot of those brothers and sisters. There's nothing wrong with them believing those things. They, you know, interpretation
Yeah.
across various traditions in the church is notoriously different.
Sure.
But anyways, all that to say,
I
it's
do
been
think that
mixed feedback.
yeah, no, I totally understand. I would be shocked if it wasn't. I mean, you can post a paper clip and people will
Yeah.
fight about it. You know, like, you know, people
Absolutely.
anything people will want to have like opposing views. And I think that's what's really nice about just free will and just like the world in general. It's like, you know, you have the opportunity to believe whatever you want, but do your research, do your due diligence. And I always tell people, and this is in just in a general sense, like stand on what you believe in. If you believe in what you believe in, go with that. I jokingly like post a lot of content that is just like off the wall or just like my thoughts and nobody cares. Everyone always comments about how long my Snapchats are because they'll literally be 5 minutes long. Like they'll be like, Nathan, like, why are they so long? But I'm like, you viewed every single one, so why not?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing it because you're watching every single one. Like it literally tells me that you did. But you know, I'm just
Truly.
knocking them. Just in general, like there's my ADHD again, guys. That's where I'm going. But just in general, like I can totally understand that people are gonna have differing viewpoints. And that's what I was gonna talk about is like even like something as a Super Bowl, like in general sense, like if I'm talking in the behalf of like a believer, and I don't want to say holier than thou because I come from a place of holier than thou, but if you meet me, you know I'm not that guy. And I have no room to judge in a lot of areas because my life and the choices I've made are messed up. But I am redeemed, y'all. I'm making wiser decisions, and every day is a new day, right? It's a reset for me and for us.
Absolutely.
And you know, we were talking like a lot of the commotion has been around like the Super Bowl halftime show, and by the time you guys are viewing this, this will be like old news. But just in general, just like how people are very like polarized. You think about like, you know, when it comes to politics, where it comes to schooling, where it comes to economics, like people are very like cut and dry, one dimensional. This is how it is, and you know, particularly I'll talk about the halftime show in the sense of like, you know, I have a lot of friends that were like very against it and didn't understand it, didn't believe it, or they're like, why is it in Spanish? And I just always like to think about viewpoints outside of myself. Like, obviously, culture has influenced me immensely. Obviously, my upbringing has influenced me immensely. There's so many parts that made us into who we are. And how can all of us be right? Or how can all of us be wrong? Or why is this person right and wrong? But in general, like, I just didn't. Personally, I didn't like where people's opinions are like, oh, it's because, and someone actually commented on the fact, like, I had I posted like a AI image of myself inside of the grass and saying that I was like one of the grasses that, yeah, like I was number 70. I was going to keep it a secret, but someone saw me, you know, the cat's out of the bag. I'm one of the grass. And I had seen someone like, I didn't reply yet, but they were like, if you were a Christian, you should have been watching that anyway. I'm just like, dear Lord.
Gosh.
But when they do that, I mean, for one, it makes the community look a little silly because I guarantee you're watching a lot of other filth and unsanitary things and things that you are speaking against with this person. So my point is, like, I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. Like, maybe Christians shouldn't be watching it, or maybe Muslims, or maybe Jewish, or a certain demographic shouldn't be watching it. I did. But what I'm saying is, like, whatever you believe in, stand on it 100%. Don't be wishy-washy, because that's where the hip part comes in, right? You're telling me don't watch this. Why? Because they were gyrating. Okay, great. Like, you believe it. Then don't allow your daughter and buy them tickets and you go to the show to see Taylor Swift and watch her, you know, swing or something. I don't know. I'm using Taylor. Sorry. Don't go after me, Swifties. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but I'm not. When I say that, it doesn't mean I'm not a fan. I'm just saying that's not my first.
I hate Taylor Swift, so you can come after me.
Go after Danny. Don't go after me. But yeah, just in general, I'm just saying, like, whatever you believe in, just like stand on it 10 toes down, because I'm just like,
right.
I think people are looking for authenticity and reputability. Absolutely. And just like debating is healthy, guys. Like, talking things out is healthy. Having opposing opinions, healthy. I said probably in like a Threads post. Follow me on Threads, guys. Threads is really awesome, by the way. Like, I'm really excited. Like, I'm starting to really build my audience very quickly on Threads. And it's like how I was on Twitter. Like, I disappear for like 2 years and then I come
Yeah.
back. So that's kind of like how I use Threads. Have you ever used Threads, or do you use Threads at all?
I need to get on Threads. I've been sleeping on it since it came out. I'm like, I've kind of not been using it just because I'm like, no.
I
But
guarantee you will have so much
I just don't know
traction.
what to post on it.
Post BS. Literally post
Just
you
whatever.
don't even need to post like any images right now. You can just literally have statements and stand on your statement, and you will have a flurry of audiences. And you'll probably get some opposing ones too. But let me tell you about engagement with Threads
Sure.
right now. You guys are sleeping on Threads if you're not hopping on the bandwagon. Like, I feel like I'm late too. I'm so sad that as a nice baby that I did not jump on YouTube when I did, or when I could have in the early 2000s, because everybody's like, you could have been a YouTuber. I totally could have, and I missed the mark. And you know what?
Absolutely.
I'm not even going to try it now because I'm old and dusty now. So no, I'm just messing. But there's such a like a lot of markets are so overly saturated. So people are looking for authenticity, and people are looking for differences, like something unique. Like, give us something new and give us something that's like raw, passionate, like I said, beautifully real. Definitely
Absolutely.
gonna hype up Threads for you, like in particular. Like, go on it tonight or tomorrow and just start messing with it and see how people are functioning and operating on there. You will be really impressed. Like, I'm like psyched. I've had already a couple of viral posts on there, and they were just
Cool.
like rinky dink stuff, and we can talk offline on what that looks like a little bit more for you. But Danny,
Sure.
what is your socials? Like, if people want to like see your content, where can they go?
Yeah, my social is my full name. It's Danny Lane Jordan. It's DannyLaneJordan.
Awesome. And are you on
My
Instagram
actual
only?
name is Daniel, but
Daniel. Okay.
yeah, so well, I'm on TikTok as well. I just don't post that much on TikTok. So predominantly Instagram and maybe Threads coming up, but I don't know. We'll
Yes.
see.
Do it. I'm encouraging you. But yeah, so I've been rambling on quite a little bit, but just in general, like, I just really encourage people to think about viewpoints outside of their own, and this is just like a perfect episode to really like cover that topic, because you
Okay.
are opening an area or in a dynamic that I don't want to say that I didn't know that it didn't exist, but for one, you're talking about celibacy, which is cool. I think it's like there's this new push for celibate people, and just
Absolutely.
celebrating a counterculture, if you will, of from this hypersexualized environment. And then on top of that, like, this is also a very touchy subject. And so whether you're a believer, meaning like you are affiliated with a Christian based faith, or whether you are secular, which is what, Christians identify as worldly people, doesn't mean that they're better, or that I'll say we, because I do identify as a Christian, and that's a really big part of my life and my faith. And I always tell my viewers that this is not a Christian podcast. This is a overcoming podcast about, celebrating,
Yeah.
comebacks from being down. But in general, I have my flavor or my touch. But just hearing about just your identity and your sexual identity. So if you feel like comfortable like talking and running through that a little bit more to help me understand and help listeners understand, like, what is your sexual identity? When did you like realize, or what has it changed? Is it fluid? Like, all these things, because there's a lot of terminology within gay culture
Yeah.
that is not familiar to the everyday person, or maybe generationally is different, and kind of like how it
Absolutely.
aligns or is misaligned with your faith.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been attracted to men. I've never been sexually or physically attracted to women. I did date girls in high school, but it just never clicked with me. Like, there was no physical or sexual attraction. And I'd already known, but I was just hoping, you know, by the time, I get married, hopefully, we can actually consummate this thing, because nothing about a woman is enamoring to me, if you will. So that's always been the case since I can remember as a small child. And then discovering pornography just kind of like sealed the deal. So there's another kind of argument for identifying as gay if you're a Christian. Some say you shouldn't do it, some say you should do it. I used to be on the train before I um actually left my faith and started dating men. Before that, I was very anti, like, don't use worldly labels. Like, don't use LGBTQ labels if you're a Christian. Like, that's ungodly. That's assuming a worldly identity. But coming out of that world now and that lifestyle, I don't care. I don't think it matters. And I don't think it's that big of a deal if Christians identify, if they are, in the belief that it's wrong
Mhm.
before the Lord to be with the same sex, then I don't think that they should have any qualms with identifying as gay.
Mhm.
And then, of course, if they are affirming, which I'm sure that in heaven I'll meet many people who were married to the same sex, like, that's not a disqualifier for salvation. Uh, yeah, so needless to say all that, I really don't ever identify, I just choose. I I don't mind saying I'm gay. I don't mind identifying as a gay Christian, but I always just assume it's like, people know. When they meet me, when they see me, if they
Mhm.
talk to me, I'm just assuming that they know.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I went for a job interview the other day and the guy asked me if I had a, girlfriend or a wife. And I was like, no. So, you know, it really doesn't matter to me. I mean, that's not the first thing that should be, really discussed. Like, you don't go up to a straight person and then ask them, like, what's your sexual identity, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. So, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, and I'm reminded a lot of times too, like growing up, like you never even knew who your teachers dated or anything like that was very private matters.
Yeah.
And I think there has been like an influence, like culturally, for people to be in other people's business about like who are you sleeping with or what are you sleeping with and what is
Hmm.
that like? And I want to know, no, 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 like especially obviously social media, we share an exorbitant amount of things about ourselves, and it is very me
A
centered.
lot. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. And, some people will say, like, oh, it's for attention or it's for affirmation. I mean, there's tons of reasons why we post our food, for crying out loud. Who cares? But
Yeah.
it does something for us, whether it's a rush of dopamine or excites us to get that like in comment or engagement. And so,
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking about like from what I hear, and just like I'm just thinking like me as a human being, culture, society, surroundings tend to shape us. They don't define us. But can you tell me like was there any influences, like you said, that for as long as you knew that you were attracted to men and that there may have been an influence that solidified that, you mentioned pornography, and that's a whole nother conversation for a bunch of reasons,
Hmm.
and just people's relationship with that. But was there an influence or a turning point that said like, "Hey, I'm affirmed this way in my identity or my sexuality." I'll say sexuality or an attraction. Did someone say like, "Hey, this is what you are"? Did someone teach you what you were? And did you ever try to hide who you were growing up? I know that was a long loaded question.
So no, you're good. I did keep it, from anyone. But like I said, I was very effeminate growing up. So I would get teased about being gay in middle school. And that was a big insecurity of mine because I believed it was wrong to be gay. And then I was just insecure because it felt emasculating to be attracted to men. And that was during the time of puberty, when everything was starting to like have real meaning as far as bodily functions go. So whenever everything was just kind of culminating and solidifying, the devil loves to wait until a child hits puberty to start planting all kinds of seeds. And then, throughout high school, I'd be like asked if I was gay or I'd be called gay derogatively. And the place I actually discovered pornography was in a church. That church had a big past with sexual abuse before we got there. Nothing happened, to me, but there were stories of things happening to men or young teenagers young males and youth groups from the pastor who was there previously. So it was just kind of like in the air almost. The very first sermon that my dad preached that morning before we were there, apparently there's these two men who stood up and said that God affirms their brand of homosexuality and like they were going to just stay in the church.
Hmm.
And mind you, this is a Baptist church. So it was very bold of them. And, it was just kind of like it was there and meant for me, essentially. So, I would say a lot of indirect influences in my life, um, kind of steered me in this direction. It was never affirmed by my family. Like I was never like, made to feel less than or anything like that. But I didn't tell my parents until I was around 14.
Hmm.
And even then, I didn't even really come out and say, like, Mom and Dad, I'm gay. I just said, I struggle with same sex pornography.
Mm.
There, yeah, there wasn't really a direct influence or, some kind of just bolt of lightning. But, I didn't want people to know that I was
Sure.
attracted to men.
Yeah.
It was a source of shame for me for a long time until my 20s, like until I turned 20, like it was a big deal. So,
Yeah. Before we
anyways,
get into your 20s and maybe we can unpack and cover some of that timeline, I'm thinking about like three different angles already, maybe even more. But it's the dynamic with you and your family and maybe their reception and understanding that I'm thinking as like a person who is supportive of, and I don't want to say supportive of the gay community because that makes it sound like there's opponents and there's not opponents. So I want to be very clear
hmm
about that. But people that have the mindset of like, it sounds like you don't love yourself or that there's
hmm
this side like why would you take this stance that is not that you don't have to like you can live your life and be okay like you're making it sound like being gay is wrong and then you have the folks that say that might be of a faith-based community that says well it is wrong go watch straight porn like I would definitely see and hear people well just do it like
yeah,
undo
yeah,
the do and actually that might be more of
just
a
stop it.
secular stance that people that would be scared or ashamed that their son would be homosexual or lesbian
hmm
and they would try to like put that influence and like put on a ball cap on their son and hand them a baseball
Yeah,
bat or take them to a strip club when they're 16 or 18 because I've been around and I've heard so many different types of dynamics and stories so yeah that was a lot to share too so you have like the parents you have the Christians that are against you have the what I'll call the secular folks that are against, and then you have the folks that are for. So, like, what are all those dynamics that are interplaying here? And I'm not even sure what I'm asking you, and I hope I'm not putting a lot on of you and pressure. But can you help, like, how would you talk to those different parties? Like, how did you talk to your parents? What would you say to the Christians that are like, no, 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 pray the gay away? The folks that are influencing like let me make you masculine and if you
yeah,
are doing enough women you will like women and then you have the folks like no just
right,
be who you are
right.
if that makes
Okay,
sense.
yes.
That's a lot right I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're good. My family, I've always had a great relationship with them. Um, Whenever I did finally leave my faith and start dating men, it was a rift in the relationship, but I was never, I've heard horror stories of, and I'm sure you have too, and many people have heard of, especially Christians, like shunning their gay son or their lesbian daughter, whatever. That definitely was not the case for me, thank God. I think that the Lord did that on purpose because he knew if that did happen to me, I probably would never have come back to the faith. The reason why I came back is because my parents made it so easy to come back. Like not just my parents, but my family made it so easy. It was no like question whenever I wanted to return. They were just ready for it to happen. And I think that is exactly how if parents are listening to this, y'all need to do the same. Be ready for it and be praying for it, be expecting it, because
Yeah.
that's very powerful and that makes it safe. They already feel unsafe,
Yeah, you mentioned a
So
lot of the
coming back to a
feelings
family that
and
loves them regardless.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then as far as the pray the gay away crowd, like early on, I was coached on how to walk masculine
King.
by my family.
Okay.
I was, you know, they're from small town America. They didn't know any gay people. Depression, anxiety didn't exist back in the 90s, small West Texas town. So I never fault I never fault them for that. But some people had it way worse. And as far as people who still preach, pray the gay away, they have no idea what they're talking about. I wouldn't say that they're just, explicitly not believers, but they have a severe misunderstanding of what sexuality is and have a severe misalignment with God's gift of mercy and grace to all people who have all kinds of sin struggles. And then as far as those who affirm same-sex relationships or affirm that, it's okay by the Lord for them to express themselves sexually with the same sex. I have to I have to challenge them. Do you really believe that scripture is an inerrant, was written by the Lord at the hand of men? And do you take scripture at its word because it's abundantly clear? A lot of people say, well, Jesus didn't ever say anything about it, so we don't have to listen to it. Well, yeah, but there's so many more places in scripture where it is condemned, not because the people who struggle with same-sex attraction or homosexuality, it's not the sin specifically, it's because that's not how God designed them to function and live.
Mm.
And it is a form of idolatry, just like alcoholism, just like drug addiction, just like regular sex addiction. Like they typically like to argue that the Greek word that Paul uses in Romans and First Corinthians and countless places in the New
Mhm.
Testament specifically is evidence that is only speaking to the not so common practice of pederasty, where an older male would take a young, most likely minor male,
Mhm. Mhm.
and have relations in that way.
Yeah.
Essentially, slavery rape in our day and age is what we would call that.
Mhm.
Paul is talking about that practice and that form of homosexuality. He's not talking about loving, monogamous relationships. Those are okay.
Yeah.
And again, I just have to challenge that and have them look at the original interpretation of the Greek text. And it is very clear. Paul is talking, they like to make an argument that the word homosexual didn't even exist in the Bible until the 1800s.
Mhm.
And the problem with that argument is that, yes, the word homosexual was not in the Greek language. It was not in the original text. There was not a word for that, but Paul created a word that insinuates same-sex relationships. And
Mhm.
I can't think of what the Greek word is, but essentially the literal translation is man better, or to bed with men.
Mhm.
And so to me, that's pretty explicit and covers all the bases there.
Yeah.
But,
No,
people
I
have their
appreciate.
interpretations. They'll believe however they need to, however they feel. I want to leave it to them, and I want them to be challenged, and I want them to pray about it. And if that's what
Sure.
they come to, then that's what they come to.
Yeah. No, I just want to say like thank you. There's a sense of maturity that I see in you when you're sharing. And this is typically I would say an uncomfortable conversation to have in general, just for people, I think, in a normal everyday because it is going to garner attention from very polarizing, very passionate people. Because when people strongly have opinions about something and they're passionate, we can see that we see the ugly come out. And guys, I don't want you to think that everything that we say or I say or he says that we even agree with each other and everything, right? I think what Danny is saying is like the ball is in your court. And I would also express that sentiment as well. You have the free will to do whatever you want. However, like what you receive and the outcome or the aftermath, again, I want to choose my words wisely and be sensitive to that, is because of your doing, because you decided to do that. This is what you're getting out from that situation. So,
Yeah.
because I have plenty of friends that are Christian, I have plenty of friends that are non-Christian, and that would be both ways. So it's like four different opinions from two different
Yeah.
groups. Like, how can that be possible? Well, it's possible because we're all human. We
Right.
have a free will and we have opinions and all these things. But the best thing that you can do is just empower yourself and also see things out of your own realm of light, and then make
Right.
an honest decision on that.
Yeah.
If you want to know what my opinions are, I've told you guys opinions are like booties. You know, everybody's got one. You can DM me because I do not want to be on record, be on tape, and you guys mishmash and do whatever else to what I say. But I will say this, and I have had people private message me for years, even in high school. What are your thoughts on this? And once you know who I am and how I am, and I've had conversations with my coworkers too, like you're going to get the realest from me. And I'm probably going to want to have like coffee with you. I want to have to talk to you face to face or on FaceTime or Messenger, DMs. You know, I'm happy to have it in written text and you can copy and screenshot and whatever else you want to do. But I want to make sure that you have the best version of me to respond to a question that you may have, because I know that this is a sensitive topic. And that's why I really wanted to cover this, because people are very like, some people are losing sleep. Some people are committing suicide. Some people are
Yeah.
restless. Some people have a loved one that is facing this idea, this idealism. And I don't want to
Yeah.
say, again, I want to choose my words wisely, like dilemma. Like you are who you are.
Mm.
How do you move forward knowing this? Because you know, I like exposing myself to more ideas than my own, and then, you know, kind of like doing my own research. And so what I'm hearing
Yeah.
and what I've heard from many people within the gay community, gay culture or Christian culture, is that there's a shift or more widening, because these conversations are actually happening now, is that it used to be, and I was like this, is 9.5, and it could be 9 out of 10 folks that have experienced some sort of abuse with a same sex partner end up being influenced or attracted to the same sex. And what I'm understanding is that it could be the majority, but that's not always the case. I know many people that you would not even bat an eye, and they are not even feminine, that would
Mm.
identify themselves as having same sex attraction at one point in their life, or still are challenged. And I say challenged loosely. They have this mindset that they like people of the same sex and they have never engaged with an it at all. And that to me was really surprising. I was totally shocked. Do you find one way or another, or that people have this misconception that you have to be abused to identify with the same sex?
Um, yes. I mean, like I typically assume that if people are same-sex attracted, they weren't abused, like just off the bat. That's not normally um
Because there's plenty
my
of people that do.
interpretation of the situation.
And I'm just
Oh
saying that because
yeah.
there's plenty of
And
people do, and that I was once like that as well. And then you can tell me your thoughts.
yeah. Um yeah, I mean, I think people just need to get over themselves when it comes to their sexuality and just realize that there's nothing wrong with having gay thoughts, having same sex attraction. I mean, feeling like you're in the wrong body, that you should be in a female's body or in a male's body. Like, these are so tied to our humanity and they're so normal. And if there wasn't such a great divide of like, you need to decide what your sexuality is, or you need to decide what your gender identity is, and you need to live in that, like, this world would be so much easier to navigate because people could just, not feel any shame and get help if they want help, or just live life without feeling shame that they are attracted to the same sex, or, whatever the case may be. To me, I think it's so old school to be homophobic. Like, so many people, and I don't know, I don't know the statistics are when it comes to those who are, like what you were saying, attracted to the same sex for whatever reason. But like, I'm for sure it is nearing the majority now because of how sexual our society has become. I think that that is a big influence as well in people's sexuality. Anyways, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
For sure. I think also, I've seen, um, in many cases, because I talk to a lot of people, a lot of different communities, just because of my line of work, my own history with, being overly sexualized, and also my past abuses. So you get into networks and communities that have, faced certain things. But there is this area of where I know a lot of married men that have dealt with
Oh yeah.
same-sex attraction, and there's this tendency to, like, joke about, like, hey, like, especially, like, with people that, might feel extra confident that they can turn someone, or that they've slept with someone that was married, and then on top of that, just in general, where, like, there's obviously been many women and men that have been hurt by partners that act out on their partner, and they end up cheating on them with the same sex, and then it ruining marriages, and then just being in the mindset of like, oh, they should have never married the opposite sex anyway. If they were dealing with that, they should have just not ruined that person's life and been with the same sex. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Or yeah, that's another loaded question that I'm not even sure I even asked. So, that was a lot of a statement.
Well, I mean, like I said, if you were just honest about your sexual attractions, nothing is too far gone. Like, if you come to your wife and you say, "Wife, I'm actually also attracted to men," that would solve so many issues. Because when you keep something hidden, regardless of whether or not you believe it's sinful or morally unacceptable, like, that's going to help your relationship right off the bat. If you feel shame about it, I mean, best way to not feel shame is to expose it. And that's just cognitive behavioral 101. Like,
Love that.
you gotta you gotta expose that. Yeah, and so I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I do see the side of like it is kind of their fault for not mentioning it and then just getting into this marriage without fully disclosing. It's kind of like, well, what do you expect to happen? I mean, I don't I'd be very surprised if this day and age with how accessible sex is and with how horny men are, like, I would be so surprised if it didn't happen.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. I mean, there's this sentiment where people are gonna suppress their feelings, and not just suppress, but hide. And I also, believe it or not, I agree with you in that notion of, like, sharing, but I am in disagreement on, like, how it's going to be received. I wish not that, this generation, or these men that may be listening, or, moving forward, would be receptive and take our advice and put into action, and that they're gonna be well received after that, because a lot of them won't. And let me reiterate it in a different way. I know a lot of men that are happily married that maybe identify with a bisexuality, or have had attractions, right, guys? So we're just talking about like attractions, like finding other people pleasant on the eye and never having that feeling before, and saying, wow, like I could see myself like this. Like, not to be like totally explicit. So, like, I talked to one gentleman that never crossed his mind ever, and I don't think it ever will. And he was like, if you rub your genitals and your eyes are covered, like, or someone does that, like you're going to be stimulated. Like let's be real here.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be like funny. I'm trying to be really like mature about this sensitive topic. But just in
Sure.
general, I know a lot of men that if they opened up about these attractions and or this identity that they've identified with bisexuality, and I'm just talking like not even that they are like same sex attracted and not attracted to their spouse. They are attracted to their spouse, but they are also
Hmm.
attracted to the same sex. And if they open up to their female spouse, that and I think culture has a lot to do with this, that they would be appalled, that they would feel unworthy, low self-esteem, and I can't believe this, like I'm divorcing my husband right away. And that imposes a lot of fear and a lot of like guilt and shame. Had it been a woman, and you guys can bash me offline or whatever, we can talk about it. But in my experience and what I've noticed with culture, if a woman tells their man, "Hey, honey, I had a thing in high school or I had a thing in college where I was attracted to this girl and we messed around, we hung out, and actually we had a
Yeah,
relationship
it's
that was
normal.
like a year." And no one would bat an eye. The guy would be like, "Hey, babe, like that's hot or that's cool, like that's okay. And, I still love you. Like, who cares? Like that's it." And I
Hmm.
think it is really unfair because I think it's harming men that have explored or have done things, and whether they call it a mistake or not, or they acted on it and they didn't like it. Like people are active, people are exploring. Guys, people are exploring. Let's be real here. And it could be when they're minors, it could be on their first time in college. I don't think it is fair for them to be ostracized, off limits, and guilt tripped for what they did, especially if it's in their past. And if they're coming to you, they're coming to you because they're scared and they love you and they don't know how to do it and they don't know who to talk to about it. Does that make sense? What I'm saying at all? I'm rambling
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And I'm really
No,
passionate
you're
about,
good. Yeah.
yeah, I'm really passionate about this part in particular too, because I've seen where happily married people have broken up because of this. And I've also seen
Hmm.
where sexually promiscuous people that are not believers, guys, or and believers as well, have been what I'll call sexually deviant or sexually promiscuous, engaging with other people in their relationships, either
Hmm.
together or separately. Again, I'm not going to get into those weeds, but that their relationship was messed up because of something that one of them did. And in these cases where the men had tried a man, but it was okay for the woman to try a woman or include them in their relationship. Again, I'm not condoning those things. My morals and values are different, and that I think we should only have one partner. My heart couldn't take, sharing, my loved one with someone else. Like
Absolutely not.
I would choke them. But don't put me on
Buried in
record
the
for that.
ground.
Yeah, 6 feet under. But just in general, like
Yeah.
I just feel like it's really unfair for that dynamic, in a sense, for the man to be, basically like emasculated or felt less than because of things that they did or the feelings that they feel. It doesn't mean that that person doesn't have feelings for you. It doesn't mean that they were liars or that they hid something from you. There's things in my past with my ex-girlfriend that I was scared to share about whatever. I mean,
Hmm.
even and I don't know how much you know about me, Danny, but from my previous sexual experiences, like I was abused. I didn't have a say in that, right? Like, so I couldn't imagine if, like, people that willingly partake or have relationships, that they would feel one
Right.
way to feel bad about what they did. But anyway, that's my soapbox right there. And thank you for continuing this conversation. Like I said, this is new territory as far as conversation, and that's why I'm asking so much. And I know that I'm likely going to create a lot of emotion. So I want people to like kind of like take a step back and just see things on the other side. How are you feeling, by the way?
Absolutely. I'm feeling great.
Good. And I appreciate you so much for taking this time. And I won't hold you
Yeah.
up too much longer, but I do want to cover a couple of other things. And I think you've really did a great job of like explaining how maybe people that are in the faith-based community often get it wrong when talking about sexuality and faith. Like sex in itself, guys, like isn't bad. Like everybody is going to want it at one point or another, whether they act on it, whether it's straight, homosexual, or whatever, is different for everybody. But I want to hone in like more on the celibacy aspect because we've been talking about a lot of things. But do you do you see yourself being like celibate forever? Like to me, someone who's been sexually active since 4 years old, and that's kind of scary for people to hear, but I'm being dead serious as it relates to myself. But with your personal journey, Danny, do you foresee yourself being celibate for, like, the near future, long term? Like, what does that look to you? And how did you really get to that point to say, "This is what I think this is what's for me right now?"
Yeah, so I kind of came to that well, so for one, in the Christian faith, there's the spiritual gifts, right? And celibacy is one of those gifts. I don't believe that we are each gifted one special gift, right? Like, I
Mhm.
think that we are able to access and use all of those as we need them, and that including celibacy. So for me, I don't foresee myself getting married. And because of how I have chosen to live, that involves also not marrying a man. So yeah, for the foreseeable future, I'm celibate and I'm very relationship oriented. I'm very I love connection. I love intimacy. So that is a big idol that I'm having to tear down, or that the Lord is having to tear down in my
Mhm.
own life as I stare down the barrel of celibacy, because it is a scary road, like to look ahead for the rest of your life and say, I'm never going to have sex again. One,
Mhm.
that's terrifying because it sounds really sad. But two, it's also terrifying because you're like, crap, I don't want to mess up.
Yeah.
So having to shift that mindset of like, no, I still have a full life. Like it's the day by day thing, no matter what it is. I'm not worrying about tomorrow because it's not even promised. So I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna do my best today.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's long term, that's my plan. I do want to adopt a child one day whenever the Lord kind of gives me that ability, because just because can't be a husband doesn't mean that I can't be a father.
Mm.
I believe that celibates actually have a really unique edge to become deacons and deaconesses in their church. And part of deaconship is to shepherd the widows and orphans. So
You taught me
I
something.
think that yeah, well, yeah, I just think that that's like a job outlined for those who pursue celibacy. So you do have a full life ahead of you. It's not the end of the world. Um,
What would you say to people that, maybe that are listening or that have thought, abstinence or celibacy is maybe an opportunity or option for them? They've been toying with the idea because they want to do the counterculture, or they feel faith faith wise that is a move for them
mhm.
or in this season of their life. Like, what would you do to maybe like encourage somebody? Like, what is the support system like, or what are the influences that can help like them through this process? And I'm saying like this process, but
Yeah,
this lifestyle that you've decided,
yeah,
because I would like, to me it is not familiar. So I'm curious.
yeah. I mean, like, you do need a strong community, like, and you have to work for it, right? Like, you have to take the focus off yourself and put it onto your community. A lot of what I preach and what really is just plain in scripture is, as a celibate, you are in full total dedication to the church body and serving the body. So when we serve, it is like a psychological improvement when we serve and we take our mind off of ourselves and serve others in our congregation. And then for those who are not even in the faith, that situationship that you've had, like, for the past, 2 months or whatever, that man doesn't want you. Like, what are you doing? Why are you letting yourself get pulled back into this constant cycle? Celibacy, I think, is such a saving grace for so many reasons. It's so much more healthy for your body physically. It's so much more healthy for your mind, because I think we get trapped in equating sex to validation. And if
Yes.
we don't feel whole in ourselves, then we're going to constantly get wrapped up in these situationships or in these relationships that end, explosively or that are never what you wanted them to become. So celibacy for everyone, I think, is the way to go until, you get married. Like,
Yeah.
not even in a moral sense, because I hate preaching that because I've been sexually active before I've been married. So I never want to put down anyone for not following that. But like,
Hmm.
just on a practical level, I think it is so much more beneficial. That's not to say it doesn't take work and that you
Yeah.
still don't crave sex, obviously. Like, that's still going to be there. But again, like I said, it's day by day. That's the biggest thing I would say.
Yeah. No, I think that's very well put. It's beautifully put. And just to kind of like reiterate some of those things that you're saying, no matter like your viewpoint or standpoint, is I think for people that are very sexually active or haven't been successful in relationships, no matter where they fall in line, sexually, spiritually, in my experience, where I've chosen celibacy or abstinence with that partner, um, and she obviously like would agree, like you get to learn the person. I think a lot of people are
Absolutely.
are brought together through trauma bonds. There's the hookup culture. There's apps that encourage like, hey, like about the second or third date, this is where it's going to advance to, and it just adds all this pressure. I think, like I said, even taking faith aside, there's such an advantage of learning who someone is, learning who you are, and how you will act and
Absolutely.
grow a relationship maturely, and healthily by
Yeah.
eliminating that completely, right? It's not to say that it won't come later if that's what you choose to do. Personally, I'm in the belief of like, yeah, like no sex before marriage. Obviously, I've had a lot before marriage from all my previous relationships, but I'm not proud of that. And I also like my morals and values still are affirming of like that's the lifestyle that I aspire to be. So celibacy
Hmm.
or abstinence, like I want that in my future relationship or plural, because like
Yeah.
friendships, like you're not having sex with friends.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys aren't having sex with your friends, but
Leave your friend alone.
right. Yeah. So it's like you are learning to like what do you like about the person? X, Y, Z, boom, 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 all these different things, rather than saying like, oh well, my mind is clouded because I've now added this other exponent, and so I really can't think straight. And there's this, I'll just say like a lot of times where sex was the primary focus and not a relationship, I've become obsessive and I'm not proud of it. Like there's this very
Absolutely.
clouded mind, like I'm very disoriented and nothing else matters. Like, and I have a lot of other insecurities and abandonment and rejection issues, so that I'm now imposing all of these issues on this person. Let's not even get into soul ties, guys. A connection that you
Yeah.
experience with someone that is supposed to be reserved. And also just like that shouldn't be for everybody, y'all. Like save yourself for
Yeah.
someone like that. You are a prize. Like hold yourself to a higher standard. And again, I've talked about this before, probably in just videos. I don't even know if I talked about it in my podcast, but just even to those of you that consider yourself sexually positive, I am not speaking down on you. I want to be totally clear on that. I'm just saying investigate another way, investigate, research, try it, right? And you might see that what we're saying and what professionals are saying is there's some truth to that, and it's actually a healthy way to go about life. So don't shun it. Don't knock it until you try it, y'all. That's how you got to where you
Period.
were anyway, and because you tried that too. Kids still don't do drugs. Don't ever try those.
Don't do drugs
Yes,
and close your
ever.
legs.
Yes, please. Your price, and that's why I want to express is like it's not like don't make yourself available to everybody because everybody doesn't deserve you.
Period.
So
They don't.
that's I've had to tell myself that as I've battled with low self esteem and so many other things. But again, that's time for another episode. Danny, I just
Right.
want to thank you so much for opening up to all of us and sharing your experience. There's still so much that I could ask you, but we would be here until midnight, and I know we got things to do in our lives.
Absolutely.
But this has just been a pleasure. I just want to thank you for your
Yeah,
vulnerability and your
same.
sensitivity to this topic and just being open to like sharing. So Any last words? Again,
Yes, absolutely.
where can we follow you, Danny?
I'm on Instagram and on TikTok, but mostly just Instagram.
Insta. And we're gonna get him to get a Threads, guys. I'm believing it. So Danny,
We will get there.
at Danny Lane Jordan on Instagram. So be sure to follow him and see all of his wonderful content. Guys, as you know, in my closing, I always want to tell you how wonderful you are. I want to tell you that I love you because you probably haven't heard it in a really long time and that you guys are doing great. Remember, your trip ups are just an opportunity for your wonderful comebacks to take place. And until next time, I'm Nathan Cabrera and see you next time.
Bye.